Okay, ready? Okay, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala Rasulil Kareem. Okay, so the last discussion we discussed in detail the permissibility of or the impermissibility rather of touching the Quran when a woman is out when she have hadath akbar, right? So we said two or three things we mentioned. Just recap that if a person got hadath asghar, they only need to make wudu, then you can read the Quran, right? Right? So we discussed if a person is in need, he's got hadath asghar, then you can read the Quran, but you can't touch the Quran because in hadath asghar, that you can say the hadith it doesn't extend to the tongue, right? We discussed that, and we also discussed that if you have a cover on the Quran and it is attached to the Quran and it's part of the Quran, so then you can't touch the Quran. But if it's a totally loose cover by which the Quran can simply slip out, it can simply slip out, then it's fine. You can touch the cover. But so the moment the cover is attached, you can't. And also, you cannot use any cloth that is attached to your body, whether it's your sleeve or the tail of your cloth, etc., because that is now tabi'ah, is joined to your body. So that means as though you are touching it with your body, right? Then we also mentioned, we're just recapping that if something is not a formal Quran per se, it is like written on a frame was written on the wall, or maybe, for example, somebody writes in the Quran on the car, for example, a verse, "Qul huwa Allahu ahad, Allahu samad." That means you can't touch the whole Quran without wudu. Before you jump in your Quran, before you jump in your car, you must make wudu. You know, you get some of those verses. In fact, I got a question a while ago about people that want to they bought a hearse and they want to write side Qul Allah, they want to write or inscribe on the hearse Surah Fatiha or the Mu'awwidhatayn, whatever. So if you say the whole thing comes into like the form of the Quran, it means you can't even touch that vehicle without wudu. So there the correct thing is something which is not a formal book. It is not like a Quran. It's not been produced specially to write the Quran. Then you can touch that thing, but only you can't touch the words of the Quran. Are you with me? So if I write a surah on this wall, I can touch the wall, but I don't touch the surah. If I got a frame, a rakam, in P they say rakam, they come from a rakam yarkum. I always wonder where the word rakam come from. Rakam yarkum means to write numbers, isn't it? So you got a rakam, like how they say in P in Cape Town, then you can touch the rakam, but you can't touch the words, right? So if something is that's why we also say a cell phone, the preferred opinion is the moderate opinion. You can touch the cell phone, so as long as you don't touch the actual words, because it is not a formal book, right? Although there on top is mentioned, وَلَا أَخْذُ دِرْهَمٍ فِي سُورَةٍ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ إِلَّا بِسُورَةٍ. You will not touch a dirham in which it is surah from the Quran. The text here suggests that you can't touch the dirham at all. But from what it appears that this is the more stringent opinion. If you apply what I was telling you earlier, if something is not a formal book, you only have to avoid what? You only have to avoid the words. So that appears that this what is mentioned in the kitab is not in line with the opinion I mentioned you. Then also while we're discussing this, there's another thing that comes. Sometimes you have sometimes use people have rings, they have chains, they have necklaces, or maybe even they have a tawiz that got a surah of the Quran. Can they go into the toilet with that? Can you go? You got a tawiz which has Qul Wallahu Ahad, or you have a ring which have a surah, or you have a chain, right? So there the masla is if that is covered up properly in a cloth, then you can go into the bathroom. If it is not covered up properly, you'll have to leave it outside the bathroom. You will have to leave it outside the bathroom. Anyway, coming back to the subject, so it was just a brief um, recap of what we discussed so far. So we're discussing that you cannot touch it. وَيُكْرَهُ مَسُّهُ بِالْكُمِّ. What come your kummi there? Kummi. So okay, also kum, I also started as kum, but it is kum. Right? وَيُكْرَهُ مَسُّهُ بِالْقُمِّ وَالصَّحِيحِ. It is makruh to touch it with the sleeve, and this is the correct opinion. لأنه تابع له, because your sleeve, it is now part of your body, right? Then I tell you, بخلاف كتب الشريعة. But here we're speaking about contrary to books of Sharia. I told you here, when you speak about books of Sharia, you mean any book in which the writing is more than the Quran. Remember, if the Quran is more, so you get certain very brief tafsirs, very like Jalalain, and these very brief tafsirs, where the tafsir Quran, that will be considered to be a Quran, then you can't touch it. But the moment the tafsir or any explanation is more than the Quran, then we'll come into the hukum of kutub sharia. So anything besides the Quran, or any Quran where the writing or the tafsir is more than the Quran, we'll say it's in the hukum of sharia. So technically speaking, you can touch that without wudu. Technically speaking, you can even touch that in a hadith, but it is inappropriate. It's not haram, but it is against etiquette. Are you with me? So, بخلاف كتب الشريعة لأهلها, and this is specifically لأهلها means for the arbabul ilm, those people that are involved in knowledge. And here in the right, يرخص في مسهم بالكم. So يرخص في مسهم بالكم. So بخلاف كتب الشريعة. Okay, sorry. So the kutub al-Shariat, I just got the part wrong there. They're saying like how the Quran, it is not permissible for you to if you got in need of wudu, etc. It's not permissible for you to touch it with your sleeve. But here, the kutub of Sharia, if you need an wudu, etc., you can touch it with your sleeve. Why? يرخص في لأن فيه ضرورة, because there is a necessity in it. In other words, you how dare you busy? You are mufti, you are teacher, you are student. How dare you busy with the kitabs? Now to say every time you wudu break, maybe you got a weak bladder, whatever. Every time you have to go make wudu, there will be difficulty in that. You are unnecessarily inconveniencing a person. And then if you're going to insist that if the person must go make wudu every time, maybe you'll even give up studying, say, no, every time I have to make wudu, it's cold, it's winter, then why I'd rather do something else. They say, لأن فيه ضرورة. There's a necessity for him to use his sleeve to touch the kutub, right? Then the next masla, ولا بأس بدفع المصحف إلى الصبيان. They're saying here that there's no problem. I remember our Ustad Marhum Hashim, Muhammad Hashim, he told us, wherever you see in a kitab, La Ba'asa, it means fihi ba'sun. La Ba'asa means it's okay. Like, you ask somebody, you ask your teacher, can I go there? So the teacher say, okay, it's okay, you can go there. So you can see he's giving you permission, but not wholeheartedly. He's giving you permission, but not wholeheartedly. You say, no, go, mashallah, very good, go. So that's what it means. La Ba'asa, it's okay, but it's better not to. You understood that? So it's okay, bidaf il musafi, to give the Quran ila sibyani, to the children, even though they don't have wudu. Why? If you're going to say no, so yes, if you can train him up that every time he must make wudu, it's very good. It's a good habit. They will become accustomed to having touching the Quran all the time with wudu, etc. And also it is respect for the Quran. But if they don't, especially if they're very small, or if now they're not gonna, if you're gonna insist they must make wudu every time, you will be in great inconvenience. Why? لأن في المنع تضعير حفظ القرآن. Because if you're going to say they are not allowed to touch the Quran because they're going to disrespect the Quran, or they must be in wudu every time, so what will happen? لأن في المنع, preventing them from touching the Quran because they're going to disrespect the Quran, or in preventing them from touching the Quran because they don't have wudu, تضييع حفظ القرآن, it will result in the loss of the memorization of the Quran. So now you're going to say, no, we only have to wait till the child is big enough, which the child understands about taharat, and the child knows how to respect the Quran, etc. Then the formative years, which are very effective in learning and teaching, will be lost, right? وَفِي الْأَمْرِ بِالتَّطْهِيرِ حَرَجًا. So if the child is very small, and maybe in previous times also where nowadays it's very easy, you got taps, you got hot water. So maybe in previous times it was difficult, you have to go outside, hot water not readily available, etc. وَفِي الْأَمْرِ So you can insist that the child have to understand, the child have to make wudu, etc. before they touch the Quran. Harajan, there is difficulty, right? Being for them. وَهَذَا هُوَ الصَّحِيحِ. I told you, whenever you get wahada was sahih, it means that this is the correct opinion. Right. So that brings us to the end of that discussion. Now you can see for a moment we just deviated about touching the Quran from the actual Masail of Hais. Now we're going to come back to the Masail of Hais. But in fact, the lesson we're going to do today is the lessons we're going to do today is very, very important. It forms some very, very important principles in unraveling the Masail of Hais. I told you that in Hidaayah Sharif, all the main usul, the main principles are discussed. If you understand all this, inshallah, you will be able to unravel about 60 to 70% of all the Hais Masail that come in front of you. It doesn't have the finer details, like how we say in Arabic, juz'iyat, the finer details. But if you understand this, at least 70 to 80% of the Hais Masail that come to you, you'll be able to unravel it. For the finer detail, you need to look at the mutawwalat. You know what we say is like a Barghawi's manual and all that type of thing. But nevertheless, be that as it may, there's some important usul coming our way very, very soon. So Bismillah, tafadhal, you can read from there. You got alam yahilla or lam tahilla? Okay, that makes more sense. What you got? I got lam tahilla, and that means it's muannas. But you know what one is muzakkar, right? Carry on. Okay, so in the first part of the ibadah, they're explaining a masla, and the second part of the ibadah, they're giving the reasoning. So I'm going to translate it for you, the first part, then I'm going to give the explanation, right? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I told you that first step in unraveling fiqh text, understand what is being said. That we call it the Suratul Masla. Like in simple words, I was looking for a nice word. Look at what the scenario is. Now, once you understand the scenario, now you understand what the law is. Now, once you understood what the law is, now you can understand the difference of opinion. And once you understand the difference, now you look at the dalail of both groups. So the first step is, what is the scenario? So Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وإذا انقطع دم الحيض لأقل من 10 أيام لم يحل ولم تحل وطئها حتى تغتسل. We discussed this before, that the maximum of haid is 10 days, right? Under no circumstances in the Hanafi madhab will a woman's haid extend beyond 10 days, even if she bleeds beyond 10 days, right? That will be istihada. So, when a woman bled 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, 6 days, 7 days, 8 days, 9 days, whatever, her blood stops, then it will not be permissible for her to have a relationship with the husband until she does not bath. No matter how, even if she delays the bath to such an extent, one salah becomes qaza, another salah becomes qaza, still it will not be permissible to have husband-wife relationship until she does not bath. So to understand it by way of example, just say for example, and why I'm emphasizing this point, because it will be relevant in the next subject. She bled 4 days, and say for instance, Asar time comes in just at 4 o'clock, right? And she stopped bleeding at 3:45. For some reason or the other, say 20 to 4, she stopped bleeding. Technically speaking, when she took out the pad and she saw she's clean here, she's supposed to go and bath, and she's supposed to read Salah in that time because she's clean in that time. Remember, we discussed this before. You always look at the last moment of the Salah time. In the last moment of the Salah time, you are clean, you have to read that Salah. The last moment of the Salah time, if you are bleeding, then the Salah is maaf. Remember, are you with me? So her blood cut off at 20 to 3. She took her pad out. She saw that she's bleeding. She's not bleeding. She's supposed to read her salah, but she didn't read her salah. Whatever, she was lazy. She didn't know the Messiah, whatever. So now a salah became qaza upon her, right? So that Zohr salah became qaza, right? So after that time comes out, it will still not be permissible for her to have a husband and wife relationship, even though a salat has become qada on her. That is the scenario. Now look at the ibarat again and see how it fits in. See, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَإِذَا انْقَطَعَ دَمُ الْحَيْضِ, when the blood of hayd stops, لِأَقَلَّ مِنْ 10 أَيَّامٍ, for lesser than 10 days, when 10 is the maximum, Lam yahilla, I got lam tahilla, you got lam yahilla, makes more sense. Lam yahilla wat'uha, making what will not be permissible hatta taqtasila, until she doesn't have a bath. Why? Okay, I'm going to explain you first the next ibarat and then I'll put it in the kitab. What he's saying is this, look here, see, we know the maximum of haze is 10 days, right? So even though maybe a woman normally bleeds, maybe she got a fixed habit, 4 days, every year every month she bleeds 4 days or 5 days. But it is possible that one day or one month she can bleed slightly more than what she normally bleeds. Right? Possible, very possible. And from what I understand, normally maybe because of maybe what she ate, Ramadan time, normally the ladies they complain that now because of the dates is very hot, so their cycle goes off bonkers. They're bleeding more, and the bleeding is coming early because when they go for Umrah and they're eating a lot of dates, etc. So the food also affects your cycle. So what I'm saying here is, it is very possible that um, that one month you can bleed more than what you bleed last month. You understand what I'm saying? So when just say she normally bleeds for exactly 4 days. 4 days is how many hours? How many hours? 3 days is 72. 4 days, how many hours? Because remember, these things work to the hour and to the minute. Ne? You don't work, you work to the hour. So 4 days is how many hours? 4 times 24? Huh? 86 hours. So, right. So she bled 86 hours, right? 96 hours. She bled 96 hours. So even though this is what she's bleeding every month, but there is a possibility that she can bleed more because remember, until 10 days is not over, it could be haze. So there is a potential her haze could be extended. There is a possibility her haze could be extended. So now, to solidify that the haze is finished, to make what we say in Arabic, to make istihkam, to say to cut off that possibility, although it doesn't physically cut, it's an abstract concept. It's not something physical because even if she bleed after that, she still has. If a woman she normally bleeds for 4 days every month, and then she thought she's clean, right? She thought she was clean, and after that she bled again. She has to make another ghusl again, right? But so it's an abstract concept. It's not a physical concept. So just to say, to like fix, like to seal that there is a possibility she can bleed, but just to seal off that now the haze is finished, and as I said, it's an abstract concept to say that now she won't bleed again. We say she must bath, and this will solidify, it will galvanize the angle that the haze is finished. Although if she does bleed, she has to bath again, and that salah will be nullified and something. So just to galvanize and to seal off the fact that the haze is done. Now she's so see there. لأن الدم, because the blood يضر تارة, sometimes it will continue وينقطع أخرى, and sometimes it will cut off. So it is 50-50%. After she bled a normal time, 50% possibility she's going to bleed more. This 50% possibility is not going to bleed more, right? فلا بد من الاغتسال. So it is necessary for her to bath ليترجح جانب الانقطاع, just so that the side that it is cut off يترجح can be sealed off. And see how I'm translating it. I tell you, physically it won't seal it off. It's just an abstract concept to say that now this is to show that the haze is finished. You understood that? So, ولو لم تغتسل ومضى على أدنى وقت الصلاة, and if she does not bath, and ومضى على أدنى وقت الصلاة, and the minimum time of salat passed بقدر ساتنكسين أن تقدر على الاغتسال, she can bath والتحريمة هل وطئها, then um, right, then what he becomes permissible. So I think I explained the previous one a bit wrong. So when the blood cuts off immediately, right, just forget what I guess, blood off immediately, she can't make wati until she does not bath. But if one salat becomes qaza, then she can make wati, she can have a relationship with the husband, even though she did not bath. You understood that? So they give this, I'll give you the scenario here. Here, same scenario. Say Zohar time comes out at 4 o'clock, right? And Asr time comes in at 4 o'clock. So 20 minutes before the time when she was clean, she's supposed to bath and she's supposed to read the salah. right? And if she wanted to have husband-wife relationship, she had to bath and then she could have a husband-wife relationship. But if she didn't bath for whatever reason, right? And so she never reads, that salah becomes qaza. So now she enters into the Asr time and she never reads Zohr there. So there, even before even before she bath, she can have a husband-wife relationship. Why? Because like how I told you that ghusl seals off to say now this haid is finished. That ghusl marks the end point of a haid. The fact that salah became qaza, it also marks the end point of a haid. Are you with me? I think I explained it wrong earlier. I said that if this if that the first part I explained wrong there. That if even if the salah become qaza, she cannot make wati until she does bath. That's wrong. So two things. So that the correct this are correcting here. If, two things will allow her to make wati if she bled lesser than 10 days. One is what? Either she makes ghusl or either one salah becomes qaza. Then whichever one of the two is found, obviously it's haram for her not to read a salah when she discovered a few minutes before. And here he says, how much time? So much time. أدنى وقت الصلاة, the minimum time of salah, أن تقدر على الاغتسال, that she can bath والتحريمة, and she can at least inside the takbir tahrima, which we'll say can say about 15 minutes. How much does it take for a lady in today's age with a shower also? It's even quicker just to bath and read and make a takbir tahrima, 15 minutes. That shows you if 15 minutes before the exit time of the salah, she discovers she's clean, then she has to, that salah becomes binding upon her. So the final analysis, the khulaso here is that the khulaso is this here, that uh, when her flow stuff lesser than 10 days, then by one of two things, what you will become halal with the husband. Either she makes ghusl immediately, or either salah time become qadha. And if any one of the two is found, then the relationship will be permissible. Okay, we stop there. I think we done very little today, né? But anyway, okay, we'll stop there now. We're going to switch over to the tafsir.